Meeting to order. We're going to call a meeting to order for December 16, 2003. We'll begin with the invocation. Please rise.
Let us pray. Dear Father, we honor you as our only true source of strength, guidance, and compassion. When we are faced with difficult decisions, may we always remember that you are there for us. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to start with a music provided by the Lincoln Park Academy Middle School. Thank you very much for a wonderful performance. We'll now proceed with the proclamations, presentations, and announcements. And we'll begin with the annual Christmas Remembrance with Sue Munyon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brittany, and I am the president of Treasure Coast Beef 4-H Club. This year, my club has participated in several fundraisers, and we have even adopted a single father and his 7 children for Thanksgiving and Christmas. The children were so happy when Treasure Coast Beef entered their home to bring them loads of food and tons of gifts. All they done was smile. The community has been very supportive with our fundraisers, and Treasure Coast Beef sure appreciate all the support. We would also like to say a huge thank you to y'all, the county commissioners. Without your help, the 4-H would not be the same. We hope you continue to show your dedication, your support to the youth in 4-H of St. Lucie County. For your continued support, we hope you enjoy these gifts. Have a safe and happy holidays. See you next year. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. Thank you for all of your support and help. Without your help, we cannot participate in the 4-H activities like we do now. Our community services consist of a beach cleanup, Thanksgiving food drive, the 4-H Foundation Ride-a-thon, and the fair cleanup, just to name a few. During our beach cleanup, we walked the beach picking up the trash. During our Thanksgiving food drive, we collected canned food for the needy. For the 4-H Foundation Ride-a-thon, the club and others rode 10 miles in the Savannas, raising money which supports a variety of 4-H clubs. Also, the fair cleanup was where we cleaned stalls and put beddings in them for the animals. While I'm discussing the fair, on behalf of Rocking Horse 4-H, I would like to thank the county commissioners for our wonderful horse show arena and our soon-to-be covered arena. Again, on behalf of the Rocking Horse 4-H Club, I want to thank you for your support and commitment to our 4-H. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Davis, and I'm a member of the Happy Hands 4-H Club. Our club has 10 members this year. We have been very busy raising our pigs and learning about pigs. We did group demonstrations on cooking a pork dish and participated with projects at the Farm City Barbecue. For community projects, we are working with the Council on Aging and providing over 120 Christmas gifts for senior citizens. We will also be making baby blankets for the Pregnancy Crisis Center. We are looking forward to another great fair, and we would like to thank you for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Jancola. I am president of Time Chasers 4-H Club. We are one of few 4-H clubs in St. Lucie County. We have been and currently involved in many different community service activities such as ride-a-thons that have benefit local organizations. We have adopted a highway and are planning to clean up another day. We have collected food for needy at Thanksgiving time. We have also donated prom dresses and other items for teenage girls at the Children's Home Society at Treasure Coast. We would like to thank you at this moment and for our facilities at the fairground. And Thank you again, and on the behalf of Time Chasers 4-H Club, have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Hello, County Commissioners and staff. My name is Caitlin Garman. I'm the president of Homegrown Kids 2 4-H Club. We would like to thank you for putting us in your budget. Homegrown Kids 2 is a new 4-H club. We currently have 35 new members. In our 4-H club, we have 5 project groups: biking, fishing, sewing, small animals, and citizenship. In our fishing group, they are learning learning to fish in different bodies of water. In our biking, they are learning safety. In the citizenship, we have done a service project for a local church. In small animals, they are learning how to take care of pets. Kids with small animals have volunteered their time for a fundraiser for a girl who has cancer. And I would like to thank you. We have realized that none of this would be possible without St. Lucie County's help, and I thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Clements. I'm the president of the homeschool Homegrown Kids 4-H Club. This year is going great. We've been learning about small animals, model rocketry, and sewing. Our club took part in the Community Kindness for Katrina fundraiser in November. We would like to thank the commissioners for supporting 4-H. Thank you.
Thank you.
So far this year, Cuddly Critters has engaged in a dog wash at Thomas's Feet. This dog wash went along with the low-cost pet vaccination. At this vaccination, we learned how to give dogs and cats rabies, distemper, and other types of vaccines. We also learned from our leader and parents how to properly wash dogs and touch up on factors that we may have been having problems with, such as washing dogs properly and how to wash around the dog's ears without getting water in them, which could cause irritation to the ears. At our meetings, we have been busy doing crafts, preparing for upcoming events, discussing events within our county, and other obligations that we may have as officers, as 4-H members, and as a group. Thank you, county commissioners and board members, for helping support 4-H.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Good evening. Myself, Nicole DiMartino, and Denny Crouch, co-presidents of Beef Builders 4-H Club, would like to show our club's appreciation to the county commissioners we have in St. Lucie County. Our club is very proud to be a part of such a great community. To show our community support, we have been involved in our community by supporting rides in the St. Lucie County Ride-a-thon to benefit the local 4-H Foundation, donated food to the Thanksgiving food drive, set up a booth at the Farm City Barbecue, as well as helping serve the food. And last but not least, we have adopted a Christmas family that needed a little extra help. These are things we do since we are proud to be 4-H members supporting the community we live in.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Samantha Pullins, and this is my third year as the Barn Brats 4-H Club president. This year, like always, we are off to a busy start. From demonstrations to educational field trips, we have something planned every other weekend. For the holidays, we decided to adopt 4 kids and purchase gifts for them, and also we made stockings for 30 needy kids at a local shelter. Just like the beginning of the year, the rest of the year is filled with petting zoos and camping trips. On behalf of the Barn Brats 4-H Club, we hope you enjoy our stockings from us to you and want to wish you a happy holidays and a new year, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Allen. I'm the president of the Hog Huggers 4-H Club. My club and I would like to thank you for supporting the 4-H clubs of St. Lucie County. Our 4-H leaders help us stay on task so we can get a lot accomplished during the 4-H year. So far, we have attended swine nutrition classes consisting of pig care, grooming, and showmanship. We participated in a food drive for the needy at Thanksgiving. We will be working together with the Happy Hams 4-H Club in January to have a fish fry as a part of our fundraising requirement. Thank you, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Lauren Revels, president of Porkers 4-H Club. We are a market swine club. We have 13 members from age 8 to 16. This year we have collected food for the Thanksgiving food drive, went to gardening day at Rivers Edge Elementary, and participated in the St. Lucie County beach cleanup. We have been on educational field trips such as a swine clinic at the fairgrounds and the Oxbow Center. We have also had 2 fundraisers. We sold t-shirts for Humanities and a barbecue. Our club has a great time together participating in all of these activities. Thank you for all of your help making these things possible.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joseph O'Shell, and I am the reporter of the Clover 4-H Club. On behalf of the club, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your generous support to the 4-H Extension. I would like to briefly share with you the community service projects Clover 4-H Club has participated in during the last year. $100 was raised for a literacy program, Learn to Read. Items were collected for the troops overseas in Iraq. A food drive was held at the Cash and Carry in Port St. Lucie for Treasure Coast Food Bank. Our gardening group made scarecrows for the Heathcote Botanical Gardens with top honors. Finally, we are planning to clean up various parks in Port St. Lucie. Thanks again for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming out. We really appreciate the gifts, and it's a great partnership with the county and the 4-H, and we hope to continue it for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. The other stuff's going on anyway. I just want to get them out of here. Right. We did that one time when I was there.
I couldn't have stood up in high school and addressed
I know.
government. I couldn't. I really couldn't. When I first became a lawyer, my knees shook.
Skip the minutes.
Go ahead and do the next resolution. Go ahead and finish that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I guess that's that.
Yeah, we're going to proceed with the resolution number 03327. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 03-327, a resolution proclaiming the month of December 2003 as Joey Bergsma Retinoblastoma Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determination. Retinoblastoma is a very rare disease that affects children, causing the growth of malignant tumors in the retinal cell layer of the eye. 90% of the cases occur in the first 5 years of life, and it is the most common eye tumor in children, the third most common cancer that affects children overall, and if left untreated, retinoblastoma is almost always fatal. Over the past 60 years, the frequency with which retinoblastoma occurs has increased and is seen in 1 out of every 12,000 children in the United States, and 7,000 children worldwide died from the disease each year due to the delay in diagnosis. The key to saving lives and preserving vital function is the early diagnosis and treatment of this disease. And St. Lucie County supports eye pathology, screening at birth, and all well baby exams to ensure that everything is being done to detect ocular diseases in newborns, infants, and toddlers. The examination only adds 10 seconds of time to the regular exam and costs pennies, a small price to pay to ensure health vision for all of our children. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida. This board does hereby proclaim the month of December 2003 as Joey Bergsma Retinoblastoma Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have Ms. Bergsma here.
Yes.
Would you like to say something?
Yes, I would. Thank you so very much. On behalf of my beloved grandson, Joey, and the children of St. Lucie County, I thank you. I'd like to take a moment to just tell you what I did not know, what would have saved Joey's vision in life, so that this can never happen to a child in St. Lucie County. First of all, we can take pictures of eye diseases. This little piece of information alone has saved children not just here in Florida, but as far away as Houston and Illinois. So always be alerted to those red eye photos. These are not devil eye photos. These are not lousy photos. This is actually a form of a diagnostic. When we take a red eye photo, it's in dim lighting. And in dim lighting, our pupil dilates and our retinas are exposed to the light of the flash. So this is actually a retina reflecting the light. And it should always reflect light red. When it does not reflect light red, something could have blocked it, and you might have taken a picture of a cataract, glaucoma, Coates disease, amblyopia, or a tumor. And with a child from birth to 5, there's a chance it could be a retinoblastoma tumor. This is a cancer that comes in through the retinal cell layer of the eye, and it is 100% treatable in the eye. But when it is not detected and allowed to escape out of the eye, we no longer have a cure. Metastatic retinoblastoma kills. It always kills. We can't fix it. We should never allow it to get out of the eye. So this is a very important clue in between exams. But more important than our photographs is this instrument. This is a direct ophthalmoscope, a standard ophthalmoscope which all healthcare professionals have. It needs to be used as a stethoscope is used at every well checkup from the time we are born until the time we die, because at any time in our lives we are susceptible to a treatable eye disease. This is how we detect it, to get to an eye doctor where it can be treated before it takes vision, or in the case of our little ones, if they have retinoblastoma, actually take their precious lives. The lights need to be turned out in the room. If the lights are not out in the room, they will not get a true red reflex, and they will not see the eye disease. So make sure this is happening for yourselves, but especially for your children, at every exam with the same frequency as a stethoscope. Today you'll have a healthy red reflex, and next week you might start to develop an eye disease. So we have to use this every time we go. At Joey's 15 or 18-month well baby exam, had I known to ask for this, Joey would have his eye, his vision, and his life. It's just like I didn't really explain that picture. The white dot in Joey's right eye was the tumor reflecting the light. Had I known at the time that I took that photo, and it was taken at this time of the year, he was visiting Santa at the mall when I snapped that picture. And this is the time of year when we are taking red eye photos. It's a perfect time to do awareness. We're in dimly lit malls. We're in dimly lit rooms with Christmas trees and menorahs, and we are snapping away, and the chances of getting a red eye photo are greater now than any other time of the year. Almost all of Joey's white dot pictures were taken during the holidays. So this is a great time to alert our parents. Now, through Joey's death experience, I learned that an infant's pupil is very small in diameter, and in order for this direct ophthalmoscope to detect in an infant's eye, we need to add this 2-cent eye drop. I had a bill written the year after Joey died. It's been heard in 2 sessions. We'll be back on the floor, back in session, and hopefully get to the floor in 2004 to finally fix this for our children. We're asking for the simple eye dilation exam at birth, at the 6-week well baby, and at the 6-month well baby exam. We have a little clip of this. If you look at your monitors, you will see the nurse practitioner dropping in the eye drop of a little infant. Her name is Emma. She's just been weighed.
Pediatrician in San Diego, California. We have a 6-person pediatric group and have been doing a routine
Whoops.
dilated eye.
Well, we're going to see a little more than I thought. I'm sorry.
Today we're just going to show you how we routinely do it in the office.
Table. I'm going to put some drops in her eyes, which dilate the pupil.
Okay, here we go. There's little Emma. That's it. That's the bill. The time it took the nurse practitioner to drop in the drop. Whoops. The time it took the nurse practitioner to drop in the drop and the drop itself. But what Dr. Trotter's going to do, he turned out the lights, and what I was hoping they would show is he's using that ophthalmoscope. He takes a good 15 seconds to look in that infant's eye at all angles. And this is what is already required. This is what should be happening for our children. If it's not, make sure it's happening for your child at every exam. So it's no extra time to the pediatrician. It was just the time that the nurse took to drop in the drop and the cost of the drop itself. This costs Bascom & Palmer $1.75 and serves 150 children. So I am not exaggerating when I say 2 cents. I've actually rounded it up. This is something we can do. This is something we can fix. With all the things that we cannot control in our lives, especially some of the terrible things when it comes to our children, this is one that we can fix. No child should ever have to lose an eye, go blind, or die to any treatable eye disease. But sadly, the most common treatment for this very treatable eye cancer is eye enucleation, and every day in this country we have a little one somewhere losing an eye. Right now I know of 2 children who are losing their lives, one in Ohio and one in Pennsylvania. So we need to pray for those 2 little ones. This should not happen. Working together will fix it. Please let your legislators know that you want to see this infant eye care bill this year, 2004. We need this to happen for the children of our state, and then we will be able to lead the nation to fix this for the children of our country. And this is quite an opportunity for Florida. Joey was a gift to us all. In his death, he is giving children who would not have seen light, and for those who had retinoblastoma, life. So I consider him a gift of light and life itself. We have a little girl in West Palm Beach who actually has perfect vision in her eye. She was 2 years old when it was detected because of Joey's story. It was a small tumor, the smallest they'd ever seen in a toddler. It was frozen off with cryotherapy. She's now 3.5, a year and a half later, the same age that Joey was when he died. And she has not only her eye, but perfect vision in her eye. And she didn't have to have chemo, and she didn't have to have radiation. So this was a gift. This is a miracle. And I know that Joey sent this little girl to show us what will happen for the vast majority of these children when we start to look in their eyes. Now, sadly, a little girl just an hour away from here, Bailey Hamilton, just recently, her eye started closing like a lazy eye. They took her to the pediatrician and said, look, her eye's closing, and they were told they were overreacting. Never saw an ophthalmoscope, much less turn out the lights in the room. They took her that afternoon to the ophthalmologist without a referral, and 48 hours later, her eye was enucleated to save her life. It was already totally engulfed with the retinoblastoma tumors. Had they not had the gift of that lazy eye, had God not blessed them with that, Bailey would have died just like my grandson, but sadly, 3 years in the same state. So if this is still happening in Florida, think what's happening in the rest of the country. And believe me, I know. I hear from parents across the nation, as well as adult survivors who have been visually impaired all their lives. We have a 68-year-old right here in Boca Raton in our own state who lost her eye when she was 6 months old. And most of them think that this has already been addressed. They don't know this can happen anymore. They figured that we already started looking in our children's eyes many years ago. But we'll fix it now. So I thank you very much. And I have posters. I have information. If any of the residents want any of this to hang in preschools, please give me a call or contact me through the website, lovejoey.com. Thank you, St. Lucie County. We've saved vision and we've saved life today.
Thank you for educating us on this.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to say, Mrs. Bergsma mentioned the state legislation that she is working on. If you could bring back that proposed legislation for us to ratify and advocate that change, I think that would be better than us simply talking to a couple of legislators. So if you have a version of that state legislation already drafted, possibly you could bring that back to us for a formal resolution of support.
Oh, how wonderful. Thank you so very much. Actually, you have packets, and on the awareness sheet on the back is the bill numbers from the last two sessions and the sponsors of the bills. And I would like to say, because I know that Senator Pruitt is also in your area, as well as Palm Beach County and Martin County, and he has been wonderful, and I appreciate the help that he has given me in the Senate. So please thank him when you see him. Sure. And I will be seeing him Friday morning at the Martin County delegation, hopefully. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, having helped raise two children, I had never heard of this. And you may also pay a visit to the Children's Services Council. Their office is in Port St. Lucie, and our staff can give you the exact address. And perhaps they can help spread the word in our county. They come in contact with a lot of children.
Yes, Children's Services, I usually try to get a contact, and I appreciate that information. I do want you to know that I did stop at your school board offices this evening right after I got up here, and they took posters for all schools in Spanish and English, which is good, because I know the school across the street from my house, Little South Grade, 2 children have been saved from having to go blind just from the poster hanging there. Most of the children affected by Joey's information have not had retinoblastoma, but were going blind to other treatable eye diseases. So this is something we can fix. Joey proves that to me every day. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Reading of the announcements by the County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The December 23rd Board of County Commissioners meeting has been canceled because of the holiday. The January 6th, 2004 Board of County Commissioners meeting has been changed to 6 p.m. The January 20th, 2000 Board of County Commissioners meeting has been changed to 6 p.m. The North County Charrette will take place from February 7th through February 13th, 2004, with a primary public input session of the Charrette occurring on Saturday, February 7th from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Public is also invited to a presentation of the Charrette report on Friday, February 13th, 2004 from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. In future announcements, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, we will have the specific locations of these workshops and charrettes, but we just wanted to get the dates out now so people could put them on their calendars.
Thank you. Okay, we'll proceed to the minutes for December 9th, 2003. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We will proceed to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to address the board?
Hi, I'm Susie Karen, 8500 Indrio Road. I would like to submit to the board for reimbursement the bills that have been paid by the Indrio residents for the independent road study that we had done. We told you on many occasions that the study done by Kimberly Horn for the development of Emerson Estates was false, and we were able to prove that with this study. It was admitted by Mr. Murphy that, in fact, Portofino Shores and the park were not included in the original study. With some creative bookkeeping, Mr. Murphy was able to slide the numbers through by a sliver and then excluded the park altogether. That was very creative, I must say. Since the residents were correct from the beginning and so proved it, I feel this money should be returned to the concerned citizens that did someone else's homework. Maybe you could ask the developer for reimbursement, or maybe even Mr. Murphy would like to kick in since he reviewed the study and felt that it was in order. I would like to thank Mr. Coward for being concerned about the system that has no checks and balances, but I am sorry to say that it seems to have fallen on deaf ears by your colleagues. I would appreciate a response as soon as possible on this reimbursement. And I'll give you copies when I'm done. And I'd also like to set the record straight. At the County Commissioners meeting on December 2nd, 2003, during the discussion of Emerson Estate, Commissioner Barnes stated that they have turned down several developments in the North County area. Well, Mr. Barnes, that was an untrue statement. The development that you stated you turned down, Alicia Pino property, was not in fact turned down, but was withdrawn by the developer. Any other pieces west of the urban service boundary are waiting for the Charrette to see where they stand regarding density. So, in fact, Mr. Barnes, the board has not turned down any developments in this area to date. As far as Emerson Estates making concessions for the neighbors, not one concession that the adjoining residents requested was made. We requested the density be lowered back to the original zoning of 1 house per acre to put less stress on an already stressed area. Our second request was to flip-flop the development to put the high-density townhouses with 5 to 6 units per acre to the north where it adjoins the park and put the lower-density single-family homes to the south next to our properties. We requested 2 concessions, and we got none. Commissioner Barnes, before you speak from now on, I would appreciate it if you do your homework, get the facts straight, and make it a point to know what the residents in your district are asking for. You are a lawyer. You should know the importance of stating the facts as they are and telling whole truths. It's time you got with our program. You are our representative, correct? Mr. Murphy, I would also like to address to see if you had gotten the information that the Stewarts requested from you last week regarding the drawing that Emerson Estates had submitted to you. You had said to them that you had to get it from the developer, so we don't actually have facts of what was submitted. I don't think that the Stewarts, you hadn't gone back to that. And I'm here to talk because the Stewarts' daughter was killed in a car accident this weekend and are unable to attend. And I have called and I haven't gotten any response. And I told them that I would come up and ask.
Mr. Chairman, if I can on that one, yes. The Stewarts talked to me last week. I contacted the engineers. They said they were going to send one up to me. Unless it's gotten here today, I haven't seen it yet, and I'll check back onto it. They were supposed to be here by now, and I've been tied up on other matters so far this week, and I haven't had a chance to get back and find out what's going on to it. So, yeah, it's coming, but I just haven't got it for you yet.
Because we hate to drag this out.
No, when I get it, I told them I would get hold of them. I know what happened when I got the message yesterday to contact you. So as soon as it gets in here, I'll get hold of you.
Because, in fact, I think it's going to show you, and we hate to drag this out, but it's going to show you very clearly that they said that their concessions that they did make, that they moved it back. Well, in actuality, they didn't move anything back. They put their house on my property. That's unique. And that was shown right on the screen. So I think that we're going to probably have to talk about that. It is beyond my comprehension that we allowed this development to go through with false information. You agreed to this development on false information. I cannot imagine that that's legal in any way, shape, or form. I don't know, but I just have a very serious problem understanding how you could agree to a development on false and inaccurate information. Thank you very much, and I'll be glad to give you copies of that bill.
Mr. Chairman, obviously this issue has generated a lot of emotion, and I don't want to rehash all the issues, but the implication that our staff cooked the books is I can't let go unanswered. Thank you. I sat in a meeting, I forget what day it was, but I believe it was the morning of the last public hearing. We heard this issue or the public bodies did on 4 separate occasions. The Planning and Zoning heard it. The County Commission heard the same issues at a workshop that we had. And then we had 2 formal public hearings on this issue where we heard the same issues. But the morning of the final public hearing on this issue, I sat with Mr. Murphy and you, ma'am, and your husband, and the consultant that you hired, and they agreed with the traffic numbers that our staff had generated. Your consultant agreed that those were the correct figures. So our county staff did not cook the books. These are all figures, I believe, generated by the state of Florida and the local metropolitan planning organization, and they were all pulled from those charts. So I understand you're upset with our decision, but the idea that the county falsified or even the developer falsified, they pulled traffic as your consultant agreed that morning. They pulled the figures from the MPO, which has the duty of generating the figures. The MPO staff had left out the traffic counts that you pointed out and that you were very correct that were left out the first time. But when it came right down to the figures, your consultant agreed with our staff on the traffic generated and that there was capacity under the same criteria we treat every single development in St. Lucie County. There was capacity to handle this development. And I'm sorry you're disappointed with our decision, but to allege that we cooked the books or our staff did something improper is just totally erroneous because I sat in the meeting with your consultant and our staff.
And if I may, there was no way in shape and form that I said that any books were cooked. So we'll make that very clear. We want to make the facts the facts. It was creative. And, in fact, my husband brought some paperwork as far as road studies. And we went to a different level, as a matter of fact. And we absolutely agreed that since we went to a different level, from a B to a C, I think it was, then we could actually do that. From a B to a C, we could even go to an F if we'd like to. That's an open invitation, and you were there, so you're aware of that. So the fact of the matter is that I didn't say anyone cooked any books. So like I said in my letter, I'd appreciate it if you made sure that you were speaking clearly in what I said. So it was creative, and there's no question it was creative. And it was also told to us at that meeting that the park would not be included. By that, I can't even imagine, because we haven't actually submitted the plans yet, although we are doing a park. So let's make sure that everything is clear here and outright. I'm not attacking you, Mr. Barnes, by any means, but I think the facts should be stated as they are. And please don't put words in my mouth and say that I said anyone cooked any books. It was creative. Thank you very much.
Well, again, it was using the same criteria every development is judged by in St. Lucie County by this commission and this staff. So,
hello, my name is Robert Kieran, 8500 Indireal Road, State Certified General Contractor. Let's see. I had this prepared, but basically we could jump right to the traffic thing, I think. And the deal is with the road study and what my wife has a problem with, and I think that all the residents in our area that showed their concern when they came to the county commission's meetings and such, and I would think that all of the residents of St. Lucie County would take concern with, is the fact that when the study was done and presented to the board originally at the pre-approvals and the step-by-step procedure, it was not correct, Mr. Barnes. And we had to spend $5,000 of our own money to go out and point out the inconsistencies in the study. Now, when the study was manipulated, basically, to a lower level, and there was an article in the paper that was written about 3 or 4 days, maybe a week later, that pointed out what levels were done. So as we approved this in our preliminary studies, and the ball was rolling, and we all have seen landslides, we've all seen pictures in the comics of snowballs. Once something gets going, it's very difficult to stop. And the truth of the matter is that your data was not correct. And thank goodness somebody in Kimberly Horn and Dennis Murphy were able to find a loophole in the system and downgrade the level of comfort, basically, to a system, and I quote from the paper, "This level makes the beginning of the range of flow in which the operation of individual users becomes significantly affected by other users." So no, we don't judge all of our things and use this in every study. We use this as a safety valve so that we don't create a moratorium. As Franny, Mrs. Hutchinson stated, you know, your concern early on in the very first things. You said and made a statement, will we create a moratorium, you said? And they said to you, which could have been a fact that swayed your vote, oh no, we can build 485 more homes based on our figures here. And you nodded your head and said, okay, that seems logical enough to me. But at that moment in time, we were 180 homes over budget. because we didn't take into account Portofino, and the figures that we were using were based on a Class A rating, which means everybody can drive around without sitting 14 different things and then have to gun it to get out into traffic, life, and limb every time you come to the corner of Emerson Estates, which is basically the situation now previous to the 720 homes being approved. So we know exactly what's going on. And basically, we all take offense to things. We come up here, we have our little bitty prepared statements. Most of the time we can't follow them because somebody else lets the air out of our bag or whatever. But basically, we make a little statement and then we have to sit down politely and not be able to rebut or say anything. And what happens is we get rebutted and somebody can rebut us but misconstrue, as you just saw what happened to my wife. She didn't accuse anybody of cooking the books. She said that you didn't follow your own procedures. And at the last minute, everybody says, well, it's okay, we can make it work. What are we trying to make work here? We're doing their homework for them? Who is Mr. Murphy working for? Us, the residents of the county, or this specific developer? Are we so in tune with making his paperwork right to prove that this thing's a good deal? It's not a good deal. We can build 180 homes in that whole corridor right now. There's 30,000 acres left there to deal with. Or we're going to build roads and schools and everything. So, I hear the buzzer going off. To make a point, I am a contractor. I make my living building. I'm against high density. I am for growth, conservative growth, rational growth. All right? And the other thing is, which my wife touched on, is the paper that was put up there also, which is data that was given to you people to help you make your decisions. It was false. The proximity to the Stewart's house is about 85 feet, not 385 feet. That home is 385 feet from my property line, not the Stewart's home. Another falsity. All right? So we have the road study, the proximity to the Stewart's, and the density issue. Okay, we said we're consistent with the surrounding communities. Well, you see, Lakewood Park was basically a PUD in its own time, in its own right, because somebody came in and developed that property. And they made lakes for retainage, and they made roads, and they did the same thing. Well, everybody says, geez, it's a step up from Lakewood Park. Those little homes are sitting on quarter-acre home sites. No, wrong. There is 1,760 acres in Lakewood Park. There are 3,800 lots. That equates to one house per 4.6 acres, basically a half an acre. All right? Now, that doesn't take into account the non-buildable lots, nor the people that are on 2 or 3 lots. So basically, they're well over a half of 1 unit per half acre. So we're not consistent with anybody in the surrounding area. And obviously, we disregarded the 3 or 4 or 5 disgruntled people on the south end. They're just a bunch of fanatics. Well, we're not. We saw a vision in North County also. And we were going to stick by that vision. All right. And so, anyways, I would liken these mistakes and omissions in the builder's presentation to a phone bill we have all received that are loaded with errors and none of which are in our favor. I would like to know what can be done to get the commission back on track and to follow its own timelines and guidelines. And by timelines, I mean that in the end of this hodgepodge that we presented, well, maybe it does work. But legally speaking, and you being a lawyer would know that if you submitted a thing to a judge and said, and you didn't have your name at the top of the paper right, he'd send you back and say, sorry, boy, you lose. Because you didn't have the right paperwork on the right day. Thank you very much. And please don't misconstrue anything I said.
Anyone else wish to address the board?
Members of the Commission. My name is Bill Cannell, 8420 Muirfield Way. I had suggested late this afternoon when I realized what was on the agenda that you consolidate all the PGA items on the agenda tonight and include them in a public hearing spot. But if that's not to be the case, I'll proceed from here, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Many of my neighbors and I have been before you countless times in 2003 to discuss the PGA development plans and the resulting traffic conditions from the growth and expansion of the PGA villages. And we have said many times that we are not against the expansion and the new development. Last month, we urged you to join the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council and file comments and objections to the new PGA DRI with the state. You will be discussing this matter in Agenda Item 7C tonight. We appreciated your positive action then on the appeal. Now the developer has made some changes at the request of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and the city has approved the final amended development order last night, as you are well aware. So in that spirit, I have no problem if you take appropriate action to rescind your appeal, assuming, of course, two things. One, that you're knowledgeable about and comfortable with all the changes that were made in that development order, and certainly assuming that this does not in any way connote approval of the smaller issues like the internal connection points and connector roads in the reserve that the city mentions prominently in the development order. And if I might quote from a letter your Mr. Anderson wrote to Mr. Cooper, the city manager, last month, in part, there appear to be some significant inconsistencies between what is called for in condition number 54 of the recently approved development order for the PGA Villages project and the current site plan for the PGA Reserve development. Specifically, we are addressing the requirement of the city that calls for two internal connections to be developed between the PGA Reserve and PGA Villages projects. In short, as we see it at this time, the city may have approved a site plan that fails to adequately match up to an existing development pattern in the county, thus causing considerable confusion and concern. And now with the addition later on tonight, you'll approve undoubtedly 5 final plats in the reserve, 5 new neighborhoods. With all that traffic added to our burden, the surrounding area's situation is made even worse. These issues are certainly important in a local sense, but they do impact an awful lot of county residents and need to stay on the table in a prominent position until they are resolved satisfactorily. And in that light, I understand from city documents last night that the developer will meet with the county on January 15th. And if indeed that is the workshop on PGA transportation issues to be held by the county commissioners, I trust that a notice and invitation of this meeting will be sent very, very soon to reserve residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Last evening, the City Council held a meeting that included actions such as second reading on annexation of the what was formerly known as the Egan land for a regional sewer plant. A number of us spoke against that annexation and tried to convince the City Council that there was a way to avoid problems on both sides, from the residents, from the county, from their need to have a sewer plant, and those requests and pleas went totally disregarded. During the evening, there were a number of issues that were raised, and the one that I want to put on the record tonight refers to the Urban Land Institute study. Don Cooper, the administrator down there at the city, asked Mr. Murphy if he knew he would be part of the Urban Land Institute study. And I have to say that Dennis and I don't always agree and go back and forth on a lot of things, but I thought he did a good job last night, and I thought the way he was treated was preposterous. Dennis indicated that, yes, he would be one of the people that would be notified or interviewed for the Urban Land Institute. And the administrator indicated that, of course, the county would be involved, and how could they not possibly know that? So what I'd like to do is put on the record a letter that you received dated December 10th from City Manager Donald Cooper. This is addressed to Mr. Anderson, the county administrator, and it's regarding his letter of November 19th, 2003, concerning the Urban Land Institute. And I believe this was a request from attending the meetings that the county commissioners be included in that Urban Land Institute investigation. Dear Mr. Anderson, I polled the City Council members concerning your request in your letter of November 19, 2003, regarding participation in the Urban Land Institute study. A majority of the City Council has indicated a denial of your request. So when they said last night that, of course, you would be included, this letter tells me that you will not be included. And I, as a resident of the unincorporated county, object to this blatant attitude of the City Council of not only thumbing their nose at us, but thumbing their nose also at the county commissioners. The next issue I have is I'm very, very grateful to all of you that supported, I think it was called conflict resolution or conflict, whatever it was. I remember that word. Thank you for taking that action last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't here because my husband was having surgery. We're really grateful in the reserve that you tried to stand up for us and look out for us. We don't know what the future will bring. If you're going to discuss this again tonight, I'd like to have an opportunity to address it before you vote. But if it stands the way it was, then I'll just let it go from there. I'd like to address notification. Mr. Cannell, several months ago, said there has to be something that changes in the process of notifying the residents when there's an issue that's going to be near and dear to their heart. And just in this last week, I've seen two major cracks in the system. We had on our calendars that Wednesday, December 10th, there was supposed to be I think it's DRC meeting with the planning staff and the Coulter Corporation. Our people came up to the meeting. It wasn't on the agenda, but there wasn't any kind of call to let our lead representative know that that wouldn't be on the agenda, so they wasted their afternoon. That's a crack in the system. The other crack is that we found out, reviewing the city's agenda yesterday, that there was going to be the voting on the development order changes for the PGA South DRI. Now, the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council staff knew that half a dozen of us went down and testified, and the city, of course, would never notify us, but someone could have notified us so that we didn't go into this meeting blind. And one of our residents got up and said, "Could you tell us what the changes are? We haven't seen the changes. We have no idea what they're all about." If there's a way that we can get information when it changes that quick, because it wasn't that way last Monday, and in a matter of 7 days, things really changed that affect our lives. The connection roads, Mr. Cannell addressed. If you're going to rescind your objections to the PGA South development order, please make it clear that that does not mean you are condoning and allowing those connecting roads until there is a public advertised hearing so that we can bring our people out. As you see, we only brought a few, and I got to tell you guys, it's tough a few days before Christmas to drag people out night after night after night to meetings. And I know you have to be out here too, but we figured we'd give them a break tonight and just bring a few of us, and when we have to, we'll bring everybody. The final plats that are going to be approved for the reserve tonight, if there was any way of holding that off until the meeting that we have on traffic on January 15th, I would really request that you
postpone that until then. And there's another issue. There's a meeting, a major meeting affecting our lives in the reserve, scheduled for January 15th, that is about a month away. The developer knew all about it, but we didn't know about it yet. So we're trying to open the lines of communication. If we need to designate a receiver of this information, we'll be doing that. But we're trying to make this two-way street of information. And once again, we are so grateful for what you did last Tuesday. I hope you'll try to work it out. We don't have an objection if you try to work things out with the city. I believe that there are some people on that city council that, left to their own devices, will sit down and listen to reason. But it needs to be a sit down and listen to reason quickly, because we, as the residents, are now in a time frame of 30 days. I would hope that there would be a way of, one or two of us will sit down. We believe there's an alternative site to the Egan site. We believe there are alternative methods to handle the sewage plant problem. And even Mr. Kelly admitted last night that yours truly was right. You do not need a deep injection well for a regional sewer plant. And that was their reason for choosing the Egan site. So we need to look at all of the facts laid out, and maybe we can work this out so that you're happy, the city's happy, and we're happy. Thank you so much for your attention. Merry Christmas to all of you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Julie Orban, a Lakewood Park property owner. My first thing, I want to commend Doug Coward for standing up and questioning and asking the developer questions. I mean, I'm sure everybody's read the newspapers, and I have not seen one editorial or one article that has not commended you for doing such a good job and sticking up for North County, or at least just questioning the developers. Anything that I have read, nobody has been in favor of this Emerson Estates until after Charette was done, and everyone commended Doug Coward for speaking up. And I believe that's the way most of the North County feels. I haven't seen anything different. We've had property owners out here, we have editorials, we have articles are written, and everyone feels the same. Emerson Estates has been approved with false facts or false information. If it can only be stopped until after the charrette is done, let them go resubmit, change your figures, redesign their development, whatever they have to do, but also allow the property owners and the residents in North County to say what they have to say on the charrette. I mean, and I actually would like to ask you to explain exactly, for the people that are watching TV, what a charrette is. Because a lot of people have no clue. You can announce that it's going to be February 7th at 6 o'clock. If they don't know what a charrette is, they're not going to be there. And I believe last night we were told it was going to be at Lakewood Park Elementary School. I don't know if it's changed since then, but so that's a convenient location for North County residents. And if they could only be heard before any of this goes any further. The only other thing is, I think this has been a real eye-opener. North County was kind of that sleepy little end of the area there. And thanks to a lot of active residents and property owners speaking up, spending their money, doing a whole lot of work, this has been a real eye-opener for the people out there. And I haven't heard a lot of good stuff. You guys are elected officials, and you've heard what we've had to say. Let the rest of the residents say what they have to say during the charrette, and then go forward. Thank you.
Ms. Murphy, could you describe what a charrette is?
10 words or less?
Yes. 8.
Okay. In very simple terms, a charrette is a planning exercise where groups of interested stakeholders, groups of interested neighborhood residents, community folks get together and sit down and draw out a plan for what they want their area to look like. It's a little more detailed than a standard land use plan. It's not quite a full-blown construction level detail plan, but it's a tool that's used to decide where the housing is going to go, where the schools should go, where the churches should go, where the parks should be, where your roads should go, in general terms. We're not expecting to have engineering level detail because that goes far beyond what we're talking about doing through here. The administrator announced in the announcements that the course will be held the week of, I believe it's February 7th to the 13th. I stand corrected on the dates. The initial public meetings will be held, I believe, at Lakewood Park Elementary School, pending final confirmation of that. And the work sessions will be held out at the Indrio Schoolhouse. The work sessions will be open to the public. You'll be able to come in and watch the designers working on the concepts. At the initial session, basically people are broken up into a series of groups, and they're given some paper, they're given some markers, they're given plenty of direction, and they're said, go forth and design. Go forth and put down what you would envision to be your neighborhood, what you want to see. And then by consensus work, a framework is kind of accepted at the public meetings, and then the site designers and the site folks go back in and start to formalize that a little bit more and come back and do some sort of public presentation of it at the end of the week. It's not the end of the state. That's not the end of the process by any stretch of the imagination, because then it keeps getting refined further, and then depending upon what's ultimately accepted by the public and the board, it moves into actual implementing development regulations and land use designations.
And we do advertise that before it happens. Is that correct?
Yes, the steering committee met last night, and I was briefed this morning that some of the things they were talking about doing, besides the regular routine announcements here and whatever publications we put, there was something about trying to get some additional media coverage, some posters, some, I don't know if mail-outs were talked about or not on that one, but there will be. It'll be whatever the budget will allow us to go and do, within reason, of course, and to get the word out to everybody that we possibly can. I know there's newsletters that are given out by the various POAs up there, so it'll filter into that one and to the other parts of to the overall planning area.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, I want to thank Ms. Orban, Ms. Karen, and others who've made positive comments in my regard, but at the same time, I'm a little uncomfortable because although I had a difference of opinion with my fellow board members, I don't want to put a wedge between myself and them, because quite honestly, I think this board as a whole has been very supportive of public involvement, and I think there's numerous examples to attest to that. I think the North County Charrette is one of those examples where we're going to try and bring in as many residents as possible to be involved in planning the future of the community. Some of the past examples include an extensive St. Lucie, the comprehensive plan study group, and others that we tried to involve in the process. We've had a lengthy port master plan to bring people into the process. We've created additional committees dealing with the port and the airport. We're even on TV now, which is an attempt to try and provide more information to the public. And also we've even changed our agenda to allow for public comment before we vote on issues, which seems rather simplistic, but in fact 5 years ago, that was not the protocol. You actually came up and talked to us after we voted to tell us whether you liked it or not. So I think there's been a long list of improvements that we've tried to make the two-way street that was described earlier of involving the public in the process. And I'm convinced myself that this entire board is committed to that. So I just wanted to state that for the record.
Anyone else want to address the board? Seeing no one, we'll proceed with the consent agenda, which is normally non-controversial issues, housekeeping issues. And I'm sure tonight it'll probably erupt into something.
Mr. Chair, a couple items on the consent agenda I'd just like to give you additional information on. That's C6A and C6C under County Attorney. And this is regarding renovation of the old courthouse in downtown Fort Pierce. And also Paul Drittenbach, the architect for the project, is here in the commission chambers this evening if you all have any questions of him. But the funds that you see being allocated is coming out of the new Clerk of the Courts building budget. And the plan is that when we go through the budget process this coming year, we'll replenish those funds. There is a revenue stream that would replenish those funds, but in order to get this project designed so that as soon as the new clerk of the courts facility is constructed, then we can proceed with this facility, we wanted to begin the design now, and that's where we're allocating the funding. Well, that's regular agenda. I'm sorry.
That's regular.
Yeah, I'm looking all over.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
well, I already told you so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One, I just wanted to note, we were talking about the Lakewood Park area, and we've finally, I believe, on the consent agenda, 4J approved funding for 2 areas of Lakewood Park for the Community Pride program, Bel Air Estates and Holiday Pines to cooperate with the residents for landscaping and signage to the entryway to these communities. Also, echoing what Commissioner Cowart said about other cooperation with Lakewood Park, I believe we had a charrette years ago in response to a petition that a homeowner in Lakewood Park brought to us because their son had almost been hit and killed by a truck on Kings Highway Extension. We had a charrette. We designed a bike path for over $1 million was spent to design this bike path. It's probably the best in the county. Also, we had a charrette up there not long ago. Those residents led the way in getting the recreation bond approved by the voters. They were the ones that said we don't have enough recreation here. We would like more, and helped us pass that at the polls. So they helped design for their community what they wanted to see as far as recreation. So, and I also remember attending a workshop that DOT held not long ago for the design of Indrio Road, where hundreds of people turned out. I think that was probably, Mr. Murphy, a direct result of a mail-out rather than just an advertisement. But there were hundreds of people in the audience, and they had good questions, good suggestions on how to design that ultimate Indrio Road corridor. So, and the only other thing I wanted to say when it comes to Lakewood Park, we just got good news that on the east end of Indrio Road, the Indrio Blueways buffer, we just got another $400,000 to help us buy and preserve 105 acres along the Indian River Lagoon. So we do care about the North County Lakewood Park, and there are lots of things good that we're doing up there. And I hope the residents will turn out for that charrette like they have in the past, and something positive will come out of it that everybody can live with.
Is there any item on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, on 4A and 4B, which deal with, 4A, which deal with the reserve, and this is on parcel 11, and I've had conversations with the PGA, the Coulter Group, and some of the concerns from residents that I've gone out and actually drove the roads with them and had them point out to me some of the problems they see coming with this. And I would just like to ask Coulter if they could put it on record. One of the problems with this one that was pointed out that we've had discussions on already was in regard to the construction access would be off of Commerce instead of off of Legends Drive.
For the record, my name is Scott Morton with Coulter Property Company. Scratch, if you can be more specific.
This is...
I understand for parcel 11, your concern is to bring construction traffic in from Commerce?
Off of Commerce instead of coming through Legends.
Okay. We can. We have an access in there. We're clearing a way to get up through there right now. Most of the, call it the heavy work to get it, there was some earthwork to be balanced in there. That is all done as of this week. So trucks bringing dirt in there to level that site out is pretty well done. We can bring all other construction up through parcel 23, which is somewhat across the street. They have to get on. They do have to get on to some portion of Legend because they're not directly across the street from each other. But we will do the best we can to bring traffic in. We do have a driveway access temporarily installed onto Commerce Center now, and we are bringing what we can in through there. We're clearing a better road to make it stable to bring construction through there.
Okay, one of the, and unfortunately you weren't the one I had the conversation with. It was Mr. Sabo when him and I had spoken in regards to it. And one of the other things that I brought to his attention was possibly notifying the homeowners when they did have to use the internal roads in there to let the owners know that construction traffic was going to have to go there for what those very same reasons that you're stating, to give them a heads up and to at least rectify any problems that come about, whether it be parking over on the side and wearing down the swells and rutting up the yards in some cases and so forth. Will that also be attended
Yes,
to?
we will do that. I have, since we do have 5 under construction right now, 3 of them can be easily accessed from the perimeter. 2 are internal, but I have implemented weekly construction meetings out there with our contractors, and I am on them to make sure they are brooming up the streets as they get dirt onto them, making sure that they're, anybody gets caught speeding or anything, in traffic in there will be, those workers will be ejected from the site and not welcome back in. So we're doing what we can to try and control that.
Thank you.
Any other items for discussion or vote? Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Proceed to the regular agenda. Community Development, 5A.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item 5A is review of draft ordinance 03-025, which would propose to create a countywide law enforcement impact fee. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this item has been before you a couple of times over the last several months for review, and we have not taken final action onto it to date because we've been waiting to get some interlocal agreements resolved with the participating cities here in the county. When last we met on this on December 2nd, we continued the discussion of this item until tonight, December 16th, because we were still awaiting some responses back from Port St. Lucie regarding their willingness to enter into the appropriate agreements for the enforcement or collection of these fees. To date, we have not yet received those agreements back from the city. And absent those agreements, county staff is not prepared to forward a recommendation to you to adopt such an ordinance at this time. Because of the upcoming holidays and not a whole lot's going to happen, staff must again recommend that this board continue this matter until at least February 7th, 2004 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible for further review. Basically, until we get all the cities to buy into it, we really can't proceed forward on this for collection purposes. Therefore, staff recommends that we punt until February 7th at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible. And Mr. McIntyre, you want to add anything else into this?
No, Mr. Chairman, just as Mr. Murphy said, we really need all the cities to participate in this, and as of yet, we've not received a response from the a follow-up response to the City of Port St. Lucie, so staff recommends approval of the continuance. This is a public hearing, Mr. Chairman, as we normally do. We'd prefer people to wait if they could till February 7th, but if somebody knows that they can't attend the February 7th meeting and wishes to talk, the board typically allows comment at this point.
All righty, we'll open the public hearing. If anyone wants to address the board on this issue that can't be here on February 7th. Seeing no one, we'll close public hearing, come back to the board.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, I just have a question of staff. Are we just waiting on Port St. Lucie, or have we verbally tried to contact to see if they're going to move forward? I mean, in looking at their agendas, I've not even seen it on the agenda for discussion.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hutchinson, I did call Don Cooper about this a week and a half ago. He indicated that he was going to get a response back to me middle of last week. I haven't heard anything. We're just waiting.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 We'll proceed to 5B.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You have in front of you a copy of the comprehensive plan amendment proposed for a parcel of land located at the intersection of Angle Road and North Kings Highway, west-northwest of Fort Pierce.
As the board may recall, several weeks ago you reviewed and authorized for transmittal to the Department of Community Affairs in the state of Florida a proposed amendment to change approximately 35 acres of land at that intersection from industrial to commercial. I'm sorry, from commercial to industrial, the other way around, absent a small corner piece there at the northwest corner. By way of reference, let me give you some points. Where the cursor is moving around, this is the subject property crosshatched in red. Angle Road runs right through here. Kings Highway runs right through here. This is the Minton Sun Packing House. I believe it's the C25 canal right here. And the Craft Gardens Nursery is this area right down in this area here. The land is currently utilized as a citrus grove. The property owners indicated their intention is to develop it for industrial purposes, a small industrial subdivision. Consistent with the requirements of Chapter 163 Florida statutes, the county transmitted the proposed plan amendment to the Department of Community Affairs. DCA then transmitted it out to all the review agencies, and included in your package were a series of comments received back from the various agencies regarding the petition. In this particular case, there were no comments or objections of seriousness or objection to this particular activity. There was one comment from the Department of Transportation relative to future right-of-way needs for the widening and improvement of Kings Highway. And it has not been the county's practice to condition plan amendments and rezonings for dedication of right-of-way. However, we've made it very clear to the applicant that when they bring their development plans in, they will be required to convey property necessary to provide for the ultimate roadway needs for that section. Actual physical development plans will be based upon whatever the specific parcel activity is and the improvements required therein. Given that there has been no objections to this proposed amendment as submitted, county staff would recommend that the board approve through Ordinance 03-027 the petition of JIT Investments, LLC for a change in the county's future land use designation from commercial to industrial for the property located at the southeast corner of Angle Road and North Kings Highway, and is more particularly described within this package. If you have any particular questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Any questions from the board? We'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to address the board on this issue? Seeing no one, we'll come back to the board. Everybody.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Go to 5C.
Second. I got to get one thing up here.
Mr. Chairman, just as with the last petition item, several weeks ago you transmitted a future land use amendment for a parcel of land located at the intersection of 10 Mile Creek and Selvets Road to the Department of Community Affairs for review for an amendment to the county's land use plan. At that time, the applicants were petitioning the county to change the land use density of this property from RS, residential single family, to RU, residential urban, or in essence changing the density from 2 units to the acre to 5 units to the acre gross. During the board's review of this petition, the board agreed to consider the change of the portion of the property to RU, basically this upland portion or the southern portion of the parcel in this area through here, and then leave the perimeter at a lower density of either RS or RC, residential conservation. Again, point of reference, Selvets Road, 10 Mile Creek, Edwards Road right through here. This is the intersection of Glades Cutoff Road right here. During the board's deliberation on this particular petition, the board made it very clear to the applicants that when the final plan development application was when the final plan amendment application was presented back to the board following agency review, they wanted to see, or you wanted to see, at least a preliminary planned unit development application with this project. That application has not been filed with the county yet. The applicants have indicated that the reason it has been filed is that there is a backlog of survey work in getting the information available to them in order to present to the board. Given that there was no significant opposition or agency comment on this petition, given that many of the agencies recognize the value of preserving the floodplain for the property, staff at this point in time is not prepared to recommend denial of this petition. We are, however, prepared to recommend a continuance of this hearing until the June 15th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, I believe. Yes, June 15th, 2004, at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible, in order to afford the applicant the time to basically live up to his commitment of bringing back the requested plan amendment. The 6-month delay basically takes into account the time that it will take, assuming a filing is made in short order, for review of the project, comments to go back to the applicant, another review, presentation of the matter before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and presentation ultimately before the Board of County Commissioners. It's basically a 6-month cycle. If it's not ready to go then it would be recommended for some further action at that particular point. Tonight, we're not recommending that you take any action at all on this. This item has been discussed with the applicant's representatives. They were requesting or seeking a somewhat shorter time period, but given how long it's going to take to get done what they have to get done, June 15th of 2004 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible seems to be the appropriate timeline. Questions?
Any questions from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My recollection of our discussion on this proposal was that the existing land use is RS that allows a maximum of 2 units to the acre. I believe the applicant had come forth asking for an RU land use, which will allow a maximum of 5 units to the acre. And through that discussion, and recognizing the interest in trying to preserve the 35 acres that are in the floodplain, is that we were going to grant the RU or higher density on the area outside of the floodplain in exchange for lowering the density to the conservation designation within the floodplain. And that was what I thought we voted on and approved. Now I'm seeing a staff recommendation that's giving them the additional density outside of the floodplain and retaining the original density that's there. And to back up this issue, if you look in the material that was submitted to the Water Management District in their review, they provide us, it's about 4 or 5 pages back in here. It's a letter dated October 22nd, 2003 from P.K. Sharma. And in her background or his background report, they say the proposed amendment seeks to change the current residential suburban designation on 73 acres to a residential urban designation on 38 acres and a conservation designation on 35 acres. So they clearly believe that was the case as well. So I'm confused. What are we doing giving them back the RS and essentially giving them a tremendous amount of additional density and not establishing the conservation area in the floodplain?
Don't be confused, because if we had been in a position to recommend going forward on this particular item today, you would have heard me say that that was a typographic error in our final recommendation. In fact, it should have said RC. That was my mistake in putting that in there. But in continuing this matter, we have not changed any of the board's recommendations, and it is to retain its conservation classification along the perimeter.
Okay, so there will be no further confusion then. The floodplain will be RC, which is what we'd agreed to before.
Exactly. The only thing that's missing out of this application at the moment in order for us to proceed with the formal recommendation and final recommendation is the actual development plan that they said they were going to bring in. And as we said, it's been hung up in production issues.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
And for the record, P.K. Sahi.
Any other questions from the board? We'll open a public hearing for anyone who came tonight to talk to us about this issue. Please come forward.
Good evening. Marty Lamberis. I own about 1.5 acres right over here, button up to the water. And I seen on your map a while ago, I'm zoned RU. So on my 1.5 acres.
And can you? We can't see where you're pointing on that screen. Can you help us?
Okay. Come on down.
Which way?
Right there, where the hand is.
Right here?
Go back up. Yeah. Right there. Right where the hand is.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'm RU right there.
Right.
I've got 1.5 acres there. You mean I can put 5 more units on my acre? Is that what you're saying? With this RU deal. Anyway, getting back to it. Let's get back to the basics here. Let's think about our road system we got going on here. Every morning I leave my house and I almost have an accident passing Selvets Road. People trying to get out off Selvets Road. You're fixing to let these people put umpteen million other vehicles trying to get out of Selvets Road. Before you even give them the 6 months that they're asking for, let's stop here. Put some roads in. Put some street lights in. Let's get this ready before we give it to them. You know, I'm a contractor here in town too. I'm all for development. Believe me, it's more money in my pocket. But let's get the roads right before we start letting people put 15 million more houses in here, and they can't get out. You know, every morning that railroad track closes at least 5 times. You know how much traffic backs up? I mean, get real about this. Let's get these roads straight, then let's let this development go through, okay? I mean, I'm all for development, believe me. But let's get some roads right. I mean, that's all I got to say.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I agree with the gentleman's comments. We need to have adequate capacity, but in terms of the planning and the density, what we're trying to accomplish with this proposal is to shift the density that the current landowner already has the right to build right across the waterway from you in the floodplain. They have to obviously have some building design that allows them to do so, but we're trying to shift those densities out of the environmentally sensitive area of the floodplain to the upland area that's already been destroyed. So it's not I think they are getting some additional density, but it's not a substantial increase in density. It's shifting them out of the floodplain into the upland area, and quite honestly will be further away from your house in the process. So you'll need to speak in the microphone if you'd like to continue to address the board. Sir, it's not picking you up. Just hold on for a second. There you go.
What I'm saying here is they're going to eventually, it's going to be approved. Mark my word, you're going to approve this. But what I'm saying is the level of area where they're wanting to build, they're talking about putting 3,500 more people. Out of 3,500 more people.
Where's that figure coming from, 3,500?
Well, if you figure up all the 4 stories and 2 stories and 3 stories that they're planning on putting on that with their proposed plan that they showed you, they showed high rises there, buddy. I mean,
are they putting like 60 people in a high rise to meet that 3,200 figure? I don't know where that number's coming. I don't mean to be sarcastic, but I think that's a gross exaggeration. I think we're talking about 175 to 200 total units.
175 to 200.
It's somewhere in that vicinity.
It was somewhere in that range. I thought it was about 150, 160, but we could go. That was one of the problems.
In the beginning,
that the
it was like 200 and something units.
Mr. Chairman,
that was less than 200.
I'll say, Mr. Chairman, that was one of the problems and the concerns that the board had. You wanted to see the specific development plan, and by continuing this matter until that specific plan is presented, then you'll know exactly what you're getting. The numbers that were given to the board were in the mid 100 range for the number of units, which translates out to about 300 or so, 320 people, assuming 2 persons per unit or something in that ballpark. Not 3,000.
Well, okay, 250, even 250 more vehicles up and down that road. You can sit down there on the end of Edwards and Selvets any given time and count 1,000 cars come out of there in an hour and a half period. I mean, any given time. I mean, it's outrageous that you would even consider putting any more homes in there. I've lived here for 11 years, and in 11 years, I put a dock in there a year after I moved there, put my dock in on the property line. My dock's 8 feet wide. In the 11 years, the back post of my dock that was buried into the ground, the front post was out here on the water. And the time that I've been there, my property's already eroded back to the back post. I mean, it's flooded 3 times all the way up to my basement had 9 foot of water in it. 9 foot from this river. And then you're going to put all these houses that it's going to have more water, more runoff from roofs. Yeah. You know, I mean.
Again, that's what we're trying to accomplish, though, is to take the development that's currently allowed out of the floodplain into the uplands adjacent to it. It gets it out of the flood areas further away from your house. And
Well, aren't they going to redo the oxbow there? If they redo the oxbow, then how close is that going to be up towards the highlands?
I hope that we can accomplish that, to be honest with you, because that's one of the missions of this board is to not only preserve the ecological greenway, the North Fork system and its headwaters, but I think to also try and restore some of the areas that shouldn't have been impacted originally. So that's really our goal here, is to try and shift the densities that are on the books now out of those areas and then try and work cooperatively with the landowner and other agencies to restore the natural system for the benefit of the environment. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. So the issue you raise about the transportation is legitimate and will have to be dealt with regardless of where those units are on the site. You've got to have capacity on the road in order to approve the development. What we're trying to do is shift those densities to a more acceptable portion of the property.
Okay, but you're still shifting people up here on this property here. The oxbow still goes through almost half of the property itself.
Right.
You know, and in the 11 years that I've lived there, I've seen water. See that little lake right there in the middle? I've seen water all the way up to there. I mean, that lake spilling out into the water. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm not saying don't put off the development.
Yeah.
I'm just saying build the roads before you put the development in.
And I'm not trying to say you're not raising legitimate issues. I think you have. And also the flooding issue we're trying to move forward with, the 10-Mile Creek water preservation area that's in this general vicinity. So we've got some work to do ahead of us.
My name is John Ferrick. I spoke at a previous meeting on the Rawls Road, whether the county had the right of way other than just about 100 or 150 feet off of Selvets. And, you know, there are some people who live back in there further, and I'm just wondering if the county shouldn't see if they can't get some of that, because I don't think they own the right of way there for that road. I brought it up at another meeting. So that's my little 2 cents.
Seeing no one else, we'll close public hearing, come back to the board. Is there a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We'll go to 6A, County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's okay, I'd like to take 6A and 6C together because they relate to the same basic project. 6A regards the renovation of the old courthouse, pertains to an agreement with Edlund Rittenboss Architects, who have contracts with the county on a continuing basis. This particular item is to design the interior renovation of the old courthouse. The renovated building would be used for court facilities and by the clerk of the circuit court. The proposed compensation to the architect is indicated in the board memo. Funding is available, and this was the item that Mr. Anderson discussed in his discussion under the consent agenda. Staff recommends that the board approve this agreement and authorize the chairman to sign the agreement. With regard to item 6C, it is also related to the old courthouse. This involves the addition of what they're calling a courthouse monumental stair. It also is an agreement with Edlund Rittenboss, the same architects, to design this monumental stair to provide vertical circulation for the new courthouse and the renovated old courthouse. The design also includes modification of the sally port to allow vehicular clearance, and the proposed compensation is indicated in the board memo. Staff recommends that the board approve this agreement as well with Edlund Rittenboss and authorize the chairman to sign the agreement. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Rittenboss is in the audience. If the board has any questions of him, Mr. Shin is in the audience. They're both aware of the project if the board has any questions about the project.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure it's necessary that he come up, but the monumental staircase, I don't want people thinking the board's sitting up here designing something just to be beautiful and people to walk down in ballroom dresses. The monumental staircase is, the item's kind of mislabeled, because what it really is for the first time, I think, with the idea of expanding this courthouse, we'll have a single entry point for security rather than 2 or 3, and that will reduce security costs. I would estimate $250,000 a year just in labor. So the staircase is really designed and the new entrance to serve both the old and the new courthouse and have one security system. Also, I think, does this eliminate the need to have a bunch of new elevators? Indian River County Courthouse, you can't even find the elevator. You got to really look. You got to spend more energy walking to the elevator than walking up the stairs, and that's the way it should be. The 2 elevators we have right now break down on numerous occasions. The stairwell is not available because the sheriff is afraid of the security risk. And anyway, I think that's a good explanation for the need for the additional work.
Any other comments? I think it would be very beneficial. Is there a motion on 6A and 6C? Can we take them both together, Mr. McIntyre? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We'll go to 6B, Herman's Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a repeat item. This involves the existing Herman's Bay beach access. There's a proposal to exchange property and relocate the Herman's Bay beach access on a different location. The Herman's Bay access is 100 feet wide. The developer that's proposing this is proposing to convey property to the county that would be greater in width, 150 feet. They would also construct parking and lighting improvements so that we would essentially have a new beach access. However, there was issues concerning the bottom of the property that they proposed to donate, the sandy, or in this case, rocky bottom. The Herman's Bay has a sandy bottom. The proposed donated parcel does have rocks in it. The board, as a result of public comment, deferred action on advertising and in order for the developer to hold a public meeting. I believe that has been done. I believe it was held on December the 9th. And I don't believe that there were any negative comments received. I know Mr. Macklem was there and other representatives. So with that in mind, Mr. Chair, I think staff's in a position to go ahead and recommend that we at least advertise this for public hearing on January 6th at 6 o'clock p.m. to consider the proposed exchange. The board would then have to, of course, listen to public comment and make a determination as to whether this is an acceptable exchange. But we're recommending approval of the advertising.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move approval since this just opens the door for public comment rather than decides the issue.
Well, plus we had a special meeting to invite the public in to share any concerns, and apparently they do not have any at this time. So, is that a motion? I'm sorry. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We'll go to 7A, Community Development.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item 7A is consideration of draft resolution 03-244, which would approve the request of Crown St. Lucie Associates for major site plan approval for a project to be known as Crown Plaza. Crown Plaza is going to be located at the southwest corner of the intersection of US 1, South US 1, and La Buena Vida Lane, La Buena Vida Drive, down in the Port St. Lucie area, the unincorporated part of the county. This particular project will consist of 2 22,000 square foot buildings, which will be used for business and retail purposes, and it will also include a large area for vehicle storage, boat storage facilities. You've been provided copies of the development plan in your package, and you've also been provided a copy of the full staff report on this matter. This site, Mr. Chairman, has been the subject of various development proposals over the years. A couple of them came to fruition, a couple of them didn't in terms of the site plan approvals, but there's been no construction on that particular development parcel. The site has been reviewed for consistency and compliance requirements with all applicable county codes and standards and been determined to meet those codes and criteria. It should be noted that the commercial buildings will be subject to the county's architectural standards. The specific architectural review elements will be reviewed as a part of this building permit application process. Contained on the property are certain environmental issues that have been reviewed and addressed by the county's environmental staff, and I think everything is taken care of in those regards relative to gopher tortoises located on the property, which will be relocated on site, I believe. Draft resolution 03244 would grant approval to the major site plan known as Crown Plaza. Staff recommends approval of 03244. If you have any particular questions, I'm here to try to answer them. Please note that there are two specific conditions in that resolution regarding the habitat management plans and driveway access for joint use. If you have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I believe, as you noted, this comes under the jurisdiction of our new architectural standards. Is this the first commercial building to do so?
No, I think we've had a couple smaller ones come through that haven't made it up to this level, but it's I think one of the first site plans that's come through under this far through the process.
And we hear a lot of talk about the differences between Port St. Lucie and ourselves and differences in growth ideas and all, but we actually are following them with regard to architectural standards, and I think we adopted something pretty much like they had adopted several years ago. So this is the first, and I think it'll make the same difference to St. Lucie County unincorporated roads that it's made to Port St. Lucie Boulevard and a lot of other streets in Port St. Lucie. It's just made it a more livable place. So it's did we get a lot of do we get any negative feedback from the developer or the builder?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so they're willing to pay the extra cost for a nicer looking building, so that's good to hear.
Well, they don't really have much of a choice.
I'd rather you not said that.
Okay.
We're having a love fest here, don't ruin it.
All right.
Any other comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, just one quick question. I don't have a comment as it relates to the use because I think it falls within the permitted categories and it's a major site plan approval. One thing that struck me is when you look at the map that shows the turning lane accessing this site, it's kind of an awkward configuration coming in. And when you're talking about someone bringing in a boat, possibly on a trailer or an RV, a fairly sizable vehicle trying to come in and out of there, I just want to make sure that our transportation engineers, and I'm sure the DOT have taken a very close look at this, and you can give me some comfort that has in fact been adequately addressed.
The site plan requirements call for an access location review by DOT, so DOT has looked at the proposed driveway relocation. The internal circulation would be a county matter, and that has been reviewed by our engineering department, and to the best of my knowledge, they've determined that the radiuses appear to be adequate to get in and get out.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Go to 7B.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item 7B. Let me flip the page here. Mr. Chairman, you have in front of you a copy of the draft stipulated settlement agreement between St. Lucie County and the Florida Department of Community Affairs in regard to the outstanding issues of noncompliance with the adopted St. Lucie County Comprehensive Plan amendments referred to in DOH Department of Administrative Hearing case number 02-25335GM, docket number 02-1ER-NO 561A through N. Mr. Chairman, basically what all that means is that you have in front of you a thick pile of documents that are proposed to settle out our disagreements with the state of Florida regarding our comprehensive plan issues in terms of being non-compliant. Some time ago, the board adopted several amendments to the county's comprehensive plan. DCA came back and said, they took some umbrage with some of the things that we've done, and we need to go back and look at a couple of points in there, some in future land use, some in the conservation element, some in capital improvements element, and some in transportation. What we've done over the last several months is have discussions with the department, working out a plan of action that we believe addresses all the issues raised by the DCA. DCA administrative staff has signed off on the proposed amendments as presented. We've presented this for information to the Planning and Zoning Commission local planning agency. They have agreed that these amendments appear to address the concerns raised by DCA. They did, however, ask that we look at a couple of other clarifying points specifically to policy 814114, 816.3, and 8114.1 regarding some environmental issues relative to wetland mitigations, inclusion of the North Savannas and the South Savannas in areas where off-road vehicles would be prohibited, and clarification on exactly how our proposed new wetland regulations would affect small parcels that may render them non-developable or non-usable. County staff has looked at those particular amendments, and I believe we can address most of the concerns raised by the LPA. Tonight's presentation, Mr. Chairman, is intended not to seek final approval of this document or the agreement. It's intended to be more of just a brief discussion on this. We are scheduling a formal public hearing and adoption of Ordinance 04-004, I believe, for January 6th at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible for the final adoption hearing. It had been our intention to try and proceed with an adoption hearing tonight. However, we need to do it by ordinance. We can't do it by resolution, and our deadlines just didn't work for advertising notice. So we're taking the opportunity tonight to ask if there are any specific questions that the board has remaining in this document in order for us to proceed with the hearing scheduled for January 6th. If you have any, this is not a public hearing. It would be the board's discretion on whether or not to accept comment from the public. But if you have any specific questions or direction of us, we're here to try to answer them.
Any questions or comments from the board? So Dennis, this doesn't need a motion or anything?
No, Mr. Chairman, that'd be up to you all. Basically, I think simply to announce the intent to hold the formal adoption hearing on January 6th at 6 p.m. or as soon after as possible, probably the only action required of the board, unless you want us to go back in and deal with any specific policy in here you have a question on or want additional information on.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, just very briefly, I think in this stack of materials there's a lot of less relevant material, and there's some very important issues. And the one I'd like to draw attention to is on page 7, and it's a discussion that we had when we were going through this process, and it's a discussion that's ongoing as we debate the urban service boundary. But it has to do with the provision of urban services within the urban service boundary. And essentially what DCA has said to us, as I'm reading this, is that our as we went through the evaluation and appraisal process to update our comprehensive plan, they found it not to be in compliance until we made certain remedial actions. And on page 7 are those actions described. And the one I'm most interested in bringing to your attention is item number 2, which says that we must revise the data and analysis to clearly describe the extent of existing urban services and areas planned for future services, and that urban services shall be expanded in a rational, contiguous, and timely manner to avoid leapfrog development, ensure maximum use of existing and planned urban services, and to discourage sprawl. And I think that's a really important philosophy that we need to employ as we begin to build out into the future. And, of course, this is a relevant topic because we're talking about development over the next 50 years in the North County and elsewhere. So I just wanted to note that DCA also considers this to be a major topic for discussion that we should be looking at.
So we need a motion for January 6th, or just?
I'll look to Mr. McIntyre. I think it's an acknowledgement.
I think just staff direction is sufficient. This was just really more of an information item.
All right. Go to 7C, PGA Villages.
1 second. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you have in front of you item 7C on tonight's agenda regarding the PGA Villages Development of Regional Impact Final Development Order. On October 27, 2003, the City of Port St. Lucie approved the final DO for the Development of Regional Impact known as PGA Villages. This DRI, with Development of Regional Impact, was filed with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council in October of 2002, presented for full council review in June of 2003. At that time, the council forwarded to the City of Port St. Lucie a recommended development order. When the city adopted their final development order through City Resolution 03-R68, they made several changes to the RPC recommended order, all of which culminated in the Regional Planning Council seeking to file an appeal with the Department of Community Affairs on the issuance of that order. On November 25, 2003, this board voted 4-1 to support the request of the Regional Planning Council that the development order as presented, as approved by the City of Port St. Lucie, be appealed as being inconsistent with several regional planning issues. That point of entry into the process was the only one available to the county, and basically we were supporting not all, but part of the RPC's objections to the city's order. Specifically, we were supporting the issues regarding transportation, and I lost my other ones in here. Transportation, the development mix, the mix of development patterns within the community, and I believe we had some concerns relative to the environmental and, I forgot the other one real quickly here. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter at this point. Anyway, what happened after the board?
And it was the beach access and I think boat ramps was the issue that the regional plan.
That's right. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Coward, thank you. Basically, what happened after that meeting that we took, we sent our letter to the Department of Community Affairs in support of the Regional Planning Council. And at the time that the board agreed to send that letter, the board noted that if the RPC settled its regional issues with the DCA, we would consider withdrawing our letters of support for the RPC's position. Well, shortly after the meeting that was held here with the County Commission, the Regional Planning Council staff, the City of Port St. Lucie staff, the developers, and county staff met to review the proposed modifications to the master plan for the development known as PGA Villages. In short, what the developers have done is that they have added more of a traditional mixed-use component to the core area of the community, which is located within the City of Port St. Lucie. Within the central core, they've added more mixed type of housing, some retail, on-site retail opportunities, and some other things that help to allow them to take advantage of the state's proportionate share traffic payment program, which is what they were trying to do in the first place. In your package, there is a memo from the City of Port St. Lucie staff to the City Council highlighting the major issues that were amended since it was originally approved. If you want me to go through them, I can. The applicants or the developers, agents are here tonight. They can go into some greater detail as well, too. But the bottom line is, last night, the City Council voted to amend the existing development order for the PGA Villages project to include the recommended changes as submitted by the Regional Planning Council. And the Regional Planning Council has since submitted correspondence to both the city and to the Department of Community Affairs indicating their withdrawal of their objection or their filing of an appeal for this particular matter. Noting this, county staff would recommend that the board also withdraw its letter of support for the appeal for the final development order for this project. Now, let me clarify one thing in here very clearly and very succinctly from what was being mentioned earlier tonight under public comment. The issues that are before you tonight deal on the larger global perimeter issues of the project. They have absolutely nothing to do with the ongoing question that the county has regarding the internal connection points between PGA Villages and PGA Reserve. That item is scheduled for further review by this board in the month of January. So we're dealing with areas that are outside of the internal connections. They're more global in aspect, and they have nothing to do with the internal connectivity points that have been debated for the last several weeks. Staff recommends that the board forward a letter to the Department of Community Affairs indicating our withdrawal of our letter of support for the filing of an appeal for this project, consistent with the actions taken by the Regional Planning Council. If you have any particular questions, I'm here to try to answer them.
Mr. Chair, you had referenced the letter from the Regional Planning Council, and I happened to get a fax copy today, so I wanted to make sure my fellow board members had a copy. Commissioner Brune. And in summary, this is from the Executive Director of the Regional Planning Council, and it was written to Ken Metcalf at the Florida Department of Community Affairs, which is the state land planning agency. And the two areas I think are most significant is in discussing the project changes and with the work with Coulter, he says they've made significant improvements to the DRI master plan and goes on to say that the council is no longer requesting the department to appeal the development order. So I wanted to make sure that was in the record and before you. I think this is essentially what we've been asking for well beyond this project, is the opportunity to provide some meaningful input. Hopefully that'll improve the project and allow for it to go forward. So I commend Coulter for finally making the effort to improve the land use plan. And I think it is the best step for us tonight to rescind our appeal of the development order based on the significant improvements that they did make. But I do want to emphasize again what staff mentioned, that this is in no way condoning or supporting the internal connection issue that still needs to be resolved. And I think that workshop is scheduled for January 15th, I think at 3:30. And that's not official. We need to verify that, but I believe it's on the 15th at 3:30. So
it's 1:30.
Is it 1:30?
Yeah. Day's right, but it's 1:30.
Okay. My calendar this afternoon said 3:30, so we need to make sure that everyone's got that. Anyway, if there's, I don't know if there's additional public comment before we have a motion.
Is there a motion?
I'd move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We'll move on to 7D.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item 7D is considered draft resolution 03245, which would be approving the request of the Institute for Captive Chimpanzee Care and Well-Being Incorporated through their agents Thomas Lacido and Associates. Mr. Chairman, you may recall some time ago this board has been contacted and has been working with the Institute for Captive Chimpanzee Care, which is located out west of Fort Pierce here. In short, what this particular program and what this group does is they are rescuing from the United States government, I guess, chimpanzees and their descent that have been used in research projects. I believe they've been used out in, most recently, there are some research centers out in New Mexico. And they're basically bringing them to a long-term life care facility that's being constructed for them in the western part of our community. This particular site plan project is actually, the site plan you have in front of you is actually identifying the build-out plan for the entire development. When completed, this center will house approximately 300 chimps in 11 different development pods or 11 different development communities surrounded by deep bodies of water, wide bodies of water where they will not be able to escape, but will be able to enjoy life in their remaining lives in a fairly comfortable environment. County staff has in front of you draft resolution 03245. We've reviewed the particular project for all compliance with applicable development codes and standards. They have obtained, I'm aware of already, they've obtained surface water management construction permits for the development of their lake facilities. Staff recommends approval of 03245. If you have any particular questions. The representatives of the applicants are here, and they may wish to address the board further on the particular project.
Mr. Chair, I want to make sure we have sufficient separation of the sexes out there. I've heard some tales of unwanted pregnancies already. So, are we're going to separate them so that population doesn't go up too high?
Yeah, we don't need
that's a joke, but no, you don't need to come forward. I assume you're going to do that.
We need an engineer to come forward to address that, Mr. Barnes.
My name is Rudd Jones. I'm an engineer here representing the project. Morris Crady with Lacido and Associates was unable to attend. We're going to make this short. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them to the best of our ability and look forward to you approving the project.
How many acres total will that stretch out over?
It's 152 and change.
And it'll occupy pretty much the whole site when we're done?
Yes, sir.
When you're done?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, I've said it before, but I just wanted to publicly acknowledge I think we're blessed to have this facility in St. Lucie County and fully support the efforts of Dr. Noon and others who are involved in creating this facility. And I believe it is the largest such facility in the world. So we are very fortunate to have this facility here. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you want to find out more information, you can go to savethechimps.org. They have an official website, and you can learn more about this fabulous organization and possibly even consider a donation. So I fully support what you're doing. If there's no further discussion, I'd move approval.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Move to.
Thank you very much.
7E.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for the record, I'm Gayla Barwick, Tourism Manager. On December 3rd, the Tourist Development Council reviewed the Treasure Coast Opera Society special event grant application requesting $2,000 in tourism funds for the 2004 Opera Society and/or season. This grant was denied due to a lack of hotel rooms being generated during the course of this program. The decision to deny this request was a difficult one for the TDC, and they wish to inform both the board and the Opera Society that their decision in denying this request was in no way intended to be seen as lack of support for the Opera Society. It just did not meet the criteria for the tourism grant program.
Is there any discussion or questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask staff a question in regard to, does the Cultural Affairs not have a mini grant program, or do they not?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hutchinson, yes, they do. I'm not sure of the dollar amount of it, but they do have one.
Has the Treasure Coast Opera Society applied through that?
I don't know.
They've applied it, yeah.
Through the Cultural Affairs?
Mm-hmm.
Was it given to them?
I don't know, but I know they did apply.
I think it was.
Madam Chairman, Commissioner.
I think it was.
Mr. Chairman.
1,000.
The sad thing here is that once the Sunrise Theater is finished, it may very well generate heads on beds. I would hate to see the Opera Society fold before then, and I don't know what other funds are available, but I know the city of Fort Pierce gave them some money to keep them going, and if that organization can generate attendance at the Civic Center, which is like a warehouse with a echo chamber, imagine what they're going to be able to accomplish at the Sunrise Theater. So I don't know how to do it without opening the door to all the others, but I wish staff would get creative and tell us how to help them at least until the Sunrise opens and they have a permanent quality home.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Barnes, I couldn't agree more with you, because that's been my struggle. We've taken monies away from the Civic Center that we said we would put in there for improvements to benefit the Opera Society, and at the same time we've turned them down with the hopes that the Sunrise Theater would be open, and it still hasn't met the deadlines, that were promised in the beginning. So that's kind of like they're getting hit from every angle as far as continuing forward. So I'm like you, I wish staff would come up with some way of helping.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, and I'm working on that. I do have something I'm working on right now.
Well, I really don't mind granting this. I think that they do bring heads on beds, and they get large crowds at those things, and I don't have a problem giving them the $2,000.
Well, I'm just thinking maybe it ought to come out of a different fund if the TDC committee doesn't believe it generates the money, but we believe it benefits local residents, and maybe it ought to come out of a different fund than TDC. If we can do that without opening the floodgates to all the nonprofits that we've tried very carefully to wean off the public dole. So staff is going to work on that, I hear. Mr. Anderson?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burns, I am working on it right now.
Okay.
Was there a motion on the 7E?
Mr. Chairman, move approval of staff recommendation, but also concur with Commissioner Barnes' comments about having a recommendation come back to us from staff about some alternative ideas, because I think we do want to try and help, but I think we need to respect the Tourist Development Council's recommendation.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? No.
Okay. When you've heard pretty much consensus up here that we would like to figure out a way to help them financially, when would that be coming back to us?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Barnes, I'll get that on the agenda for January.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anything else before the board?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I don't know if you want a report from Mr. Murphy regarding last night, City of Fort St. Lucie's council meeting that he attended regarding the conflict resolution, or if you wish to wait.
Chairman, in all due respect, I think it's only right that we have all board members present at that time. I've been getting mixed signals and mixed answers the entire day from talking to a city council member, also being at a meeting this afternoon with the mayor, and then seeing correspondence come back and forth from city staff and county staff. So I would just ask if we could get some kind of clarification on some of that correspondence.
Thank you.
Most pointedly, the issue on Mr. Cooper's letter agreeing to do the conflict resolution meeting on January 8th. And then I'm hearing, no, they're not. So before we get a discussion, I'd like some clarification. And I think it's only proper that Commissioner Lewis also be part of that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and advertise for the conflict resolution meeting on January 8th. And we'll put this, if it's okay with the Commissioners, place this on the agenda for January 6th.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Move adjournment.
We'll now come to order as the St. Lucie County Mosquito Control District. First item on the agenda is the minutes from December 9th, 2003. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Next is general public comment. Does anyone wish to address the board this evening? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close the general public comment portion of the meeting, return to the board for the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That too carries unanimously. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.